Two countries, separated by a narrow strip of sea, one sitting on top of $1 trillion in untapped energy, the other positioned perfectly to receive it, process it, and pump it into the heart of Europe. Together, they could build the most powerful southern corridor on the continent. And quietly, carefully, away from cameras and press conferences, that is exactly what they are doing. The deal between Greece and Italy is not announced in bold headlines. It is being assembled piece by piece, in energy boardrooms, in naval headquarters, in private meetings between prime ministers who understand exactly what is at stake. And what is at stake is nothing less than the future of the Eastern Mediterranean. Turkey knows it, and Turkey is already moving to stop it. Greece and Italy have always been neighbors, but for most of modern history, some years they were quiet ones. Separated by the Ionian Sea, barely 80 kilometers at the narrowest point, the two countries maintained cordial relations without ever building the kind of deep strategic partnership that their geography seemed to demand. Italy was focused inward on its own political turbulence, its debt, its complex relationship with the EU. Greece was struggling with its own crises: economic collapse, migration pressure, the endless low-level confrontation with Turkey in the Aegean. Neither had the bandwidth to think seriously about what they could build together. But something changed. Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022 shattered Europe's energy assumptions overnight. Decades of comfortable dependence on Russian gas evaporated in weeks. Governments that had ignored energy diversification for years suddenly faced an existential reckoning. Europe needed new sources, new routes, new infrastructure, fast. And the two countries sitting at the center of the most promising alternative corridor, Greece with its Eastern Mediterranean energy access, and Italy with its central Mediterranean hub position and its pipelines running north into the European core, looked at each other with new eyes. What they saw was not just a neighbor. What they saw was a partner they had been ignoring for decades. Before examining the secret dimensions of the Greece-Italy alignment, it is important to understand what is already publicly in place, because the foundation is more substantial than most people realize. The Trans-Adriatic Pipeline, known as TAP, is already operational. It carries Azerbaijani natural gas from the Turkish-Greek border westward through northern Greece, beneath the Adriatic Sea, and into southern Italy at a receiving terminal in Puglia. This pipeline already physically connects Greece and Italy through a shared energy infrastructure. It already carries real gas. It already serves real European customers. But TAP was designed for Azerbaijani gas. Its current capacity is significant but limited, and its route through Turkey means that Ankara sits at the beginning of the pipeline, as a transit country with leverage over what flows through it. Greece and Italy are now working on something different, something that routes Eastern Mediterranean energy, Greek gas, Israeli gas, Cypriot gas, directly westward, bypassing Turkish territory, landing in Italy, and feeding into the European grid through Italian infrastructure. The East Med pipeline, long discussed, partially designed, briefly abandoned when the Biden administration withdrew support, is back in conversation. Not necessarily in its original form, but the concept it represented, a direct undersea connection from Eastern Mediterranean gas fields through Greek waters into southern Italy, is being actively revisited, and the strategic logic behind it has never been stronger. This is where things get serious, because Turkey has a profound interest in preventing exactly this kind of Greece-Italy energy alignment from succeeding. Ankara's own Mediterranean strategy depends on being the indispensable transit country. The TAP pipeline already runs through Turkey. The Trans-Anatolian pipeline carries Azerbaijani gas across Turkish territory. Turkish Stream carries Russian gas through Turkey into the Balkans. Turkey has positioned itself as the unavoidable middleman between Eastern energy producers and European consumers. That position is worth billions in transit fees. But more importantly, it is worth strategic leverage. The ability to influence what flows into Europe, when, at what price, and on what political terms. A direct Greece-Italy energy corridor, one that sources gas from the Eastern Mediterranean and routes it to Italy without touching Turkish soil, doesn't just compete with Turkey's corridor. It makes Turkey's corridor less necessary. And a less necessary Turkey is a Turkey with less leverage over NATO, less influence over European energy policy, and less ability to use its geographic position as a political weapon. Erdogan understands this perfectly, which is why Turkey has been working systematically to prevent a Greek-Italian energy axis from forming, through maritime obstruction, through political pressure inside NATO and the EU, and through its own competing infrastructure investments. The race is already underway, and the stakes are enormous. The Greece-Italy energy partnership is being built in multiple simultaneous tracks. Track 1 is exploration. Greek authorities have been issuing exploration licenses for offshore blocks south and west of Crete, areas that geological surveys suggest hold some of the most significant untapped reserves in the European region. American, French, and Italian energy companies have all been in discussions about participation. On Eni, Italy's national energy champion, one of the most experienced deepwater drilling operators in the world, has extensive knowledge of the Eastern Mediterranean. It has operated in the region for decades, including in Cypriot waters. Its technical expertise in precisely the kind of deepwater environment where Greek reserves are located makes it a natural partner for Greek development. An Eni partnership in Greek exploration would do more than bring technical capability. It would bring Italian national interest directly into Greek energy development. Rome's stake in Greek energy success would become financial and corporate, not just strategic and political. Italy would have skin in the Greek game. Track 2 is infrastructure. The receiving terminals, the pipeline connections, the LNG processing facilities that would allow Eastern Mediterranean gas to flow into the Italian and European grid are being planned and in some cases built. Italy's existing gas infrastructure, pipelines running north from its southern coast into Austria, Switzerland, and beyond, gives any gas arriving in Italian terminals immediate access to Central European markets. Greece produces the gas, Italy distributes it, Europe receives it. The corridor functions as a complete system, and this could change everything. Behind the energy deals, a military alignment is quietly deepening. Greece and Italy have been conducting joint naval exercises in the Ionian Sea with greater frequency and greater complexity. These are not routine NATO drills. They are bilateral exercises focused specifically on Eastern Mediterranean scenarios, protecting energy infrastructure, responding to maritime incidents, coordinating rapid naval response. Italy's Marina Militare is one of Europe's most capable blue water navies. Aircraft carriers, destroyers, submarines, amphibious assault capability. It can project power across the full Mediterranean and sustain operations far from Italian shores. Greece's newly modernized navy, French frigates, upgraded submarines, missile systems designed for the Aegean environment, is built for the specific contested geography of the Eastern Mediterranean. Together, they cover the entire Mediterranean from west to east. An Italian naval presence in the Eastern Mediterranean changes Turkey's military calculations in ways that Greek capability alone cannot. As Turkey can manage a confrontation with Greece within NATO's political constraints, a confrontation that involves Italian naval forces, another NATO member, another EU member, a country with its own bilateral defense relationships and its own political weight in Brussels, is a fundamentally different proposition. Italy adds mass, reach, and political complication to Greek deterrence. And deterrence in the Eastern Mediterranean is currently the only thing preventing confrontation from becoming conflict. Now here's the layer that makes this partnership genuinely complex. Libya. Turkey has military bases in Libya, Turkish drones, Turkish advisors, Turkish naval access to Libyan ports, and the illegal Turkish-Libyan maritime deal that Greece and Italy both consider a direct threat to their interests was signed with Turkey's Libyan client government in Tripoli. Italy has its own deep Libya interests, historical, economic, and immediate. Libyan migration routes point directly at Italian shores. Libyan energy supplies feed directly into Italian pipelines. Libyan instability arrives in Italy in ways that no other European country experiences as directly. Both Greece and Italy see Turkish entrenchment in Libya as a threat. Greece because the Turkish-Libyan maritime deal cuts directly across the energy routes Greece needs to develop. Italy because Turkish military presence in Libya gives Ankara leverage over the migration flows and energy supplies that determine Italian domestic politics. What happened next was unexpected. Greece and Italy have both been quietly deepening relationships with the Eastern Libyan administration, the Benghazi-based government that controls most of Libya's oil production and that opposes Turkish influence in the country. Neither country has done this loudly. Neither has announced a coordinated strategy, but the pattern of their Libya engagements, parallel investments, parallel diplomatic contacts, parallel opposition to Turkish-backed Tripoli, suggests a level of coordination that goes beyond coincidence. Greece and Italy are not fighting Turkey and Libya openly. They are building a counterweight, together, quietly, and Turkey knows it. Here is the personal dimension that gives this partnership its real momentum. Giorgia Meloni and Kyriakos Mitsotakis are not just allied by circumstance, they are aligned by vision. Both lead center-right governments with strong national interest instincts. Both have prioritized Mediterranean strategy over the traditional Franco-German axis that has dominated EU politics for decades. Both see their countries as Mediterranean powers first and European followers second. Their personal relationship has been warm and substantive in ways that EU leaders' relationships often are not. The meetings between them have gone beyond protocol. The conversations have touched on the kind of long-term strategic architecture that leaders only discuss when they are genuinely building something together. Meloni's Mattei plan, Italy's strategy for becoming Europe's southern energy hub, and Mitsotakis' Greek energy development program are not competing visions. They are complementary halves of the same corridor. Greece extracts, Italy receives and distributes, Europe benefits, and together both countries gain the kind of strategic weight that neither could achieve alone. This is the secret at the center of the Greece-Italy alignment. It is not a formal treaty. It is not a signed agreement with articles and annexes. It is a shared understanding between two leaders who have looked at the same map, drawn the same conclusions, and decided to build toward the same destination. Sometimes that is more durable than any document. Step back to the full strategic canvas. What Greece and Italy are building together is not just an energy partnership. It is a Southern European axis, a new center of gravity within the EU and NATO that challenges the traditional dominance of the Northern European powers and creates a Mediterranean voice that has never existed with this kind of coherence before. For decades, European power meant Germany and France. The Mediterranean was the periphery, the place where problems arrived, not where solutions originated. That geography of power is changing. Energy changed it. The Eastern Mediterranean discoveries changed it. Russia's invasion changed it. And the ambitions of two Mediterranean leaders who refuse to accept their country's traditional peripheral status are accelerating the change. A Greece-Italy axis, backed by France's defense guarantee to Greece, by American military investment in both countries, by energy partnerships with Israel, Egypt, and Cyprus, and by the combined naval capability to protect what they are building, is a serious geopolitical force. Not a superpower, but a force that Turkey cannot dismiss, that Russia cannot ignore, and that even Germany and France must factor into their European calculations. The Mediterranean is becoming the center of European strategy, and Greece and Italy are positioning themselves at the center of the Mediterranean. Three futures now emerge from this alignment. In the first, the partnership delivers. Energy infrastructure is built. ENI and Greek partners develop Eastern Mediterranean reserves. Gas flows from Greek waters through Italian terminals into Central Europe. Turkish maritime obstruction is deterred by combined Greek-Italian naval presence. And a new Southern European energy architecture reduces the continent's vulnerability to both Russian disruption and Turkish leverage permanently. In the second, the partnership stalls. Turkish obstruction delays Greek energy development beyond the political window. Italian domestic politics shift with a change of government. The Mattei plan loses momentum, and the corridor that seemed inevitable in 2025 becomes another ambitious vision that the Mediterranean swallowed before it could be completed. In the third, whilst the Libya fault line ignites, Turkish and Italian-Greek aligned forces in Libya move from cold competition to open confrontation. NATO is forced into an internal crisis. The energy partnership is overtaken by a security emergency. Panama, the corridor that Greece and Italy were quietly building, becomes the collateral damage of a conflict neither intended. Which future materializes depends on whether the two leaders building this partnership have the time, the political strength, and the strategic patience to see it through. Here is what history teaches about partnerships built in quiet rooms rather than announced in public squares. The most durable strategic alliances are rarely the ones with the most elaborate ceremonies. They are the ones built on genuine mutual interest, where each party needs what the other offers, where the logic of cooperation is so clear that it survives political changes, leadership transitions, and the inevitable pressures that test every alliance. Greece needs Italy's infrastructure, its distribution network, its European political weight, and its naval depth. Italy needs Greece's energy access, its Eastern Mediterranean position, its military modernization, and its American backing. Neither can build the Southern European corridor alone. Together, they can build something that reshapes the continent's energy map, challenges Turkey's Mediterranean ambitions, and gives Southern Europe a voice in European strategy that it has never had before. The deal between Greece and Italy is not secret because it is shameful. It is quiet because it is not yet finished. And when it is finished, when the pipelines are built, when the naval exercises have become operational partnerships, when the energy flows and the corridor is real, the Mediterranean will look different. Turkey will face a Southern European axis it cannot easily outmaneuver. Now, Europe will have an energy architecture it can actually rely on. And two ancient countries, separated by 80 kilometers of sea, will have built something together that neither could have imagined a decade ago. The question is not whether this partnership is real. The question is whether it will be completed before the forces trying to prevent it succeed. And that answer, the one that will determine the future of the Eastern Mediterranean, is still being written. One quiet meeting at a time. Subscribe, because the alliances being built in silence today will define the world of tomorrow.